Before I get into this commentary, I have to give a shout out to, I'm gonna say CW on Facebook, because when it comes to Facebook and people send me stories on there, if they are following me on there, I don't want to put their real name out there, so I'll just put their initials, and the initials are CW. So if they are watching this video, they know exactly who they are. So this story right here that I'm reading is coming out of North Carolina, where you have this man by the name of William Coleman Scott. He was accused of taking out his mother and his grandmother. He shot at the police and was deemed not competent to stand trial. So this guy killed two people, had a shootout with the police, and still alive, still taken into custody, and they deem him not competent to stand trial. I wonder what kind of quote-unquote mental illness they're going to slap on him. A Winston-Salem man accused of shooting his mother and stabbing his grandmother has been deemed not competent by a judge. According to the Winston-Salem Journal, Judge David Hall determined that Scott is unable to understand the proceedings against him, but he understood to take out his mother and grandmother and have a shootout with the police, though. Scott will be taken to Central Regional Hospital to undergo treatment in order to mediate his psychosis. Then he would continue treatment to restore his mental capacity. State law dictates that he will stand trial if his mental capacity is deemed restored. Scott is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of his mother and grandmother, as well as an attempted murder after police say he shot at Winston-Salem police officers. The situation unfolded just after 3:30 p.m. on June 15th, when shots were fired into the District 1 police office on North Point Boulevard. So I'm alleging that based on this date that this happened last year. I don't know why they didn't put the year. Officers initiated a pursuit with the suspect that led them to Haynes Park. After the chase, Scott allegedly got out of the vehicle near Reynolds High School gymnasium and began shooting at officers. Officers returned fire and chased him through the Haynes Park area in the midst of a children's summer camp. Luckily, no child was shot. Scott was shot during the pursuit and taken to the hospital with injuries that were not life-threatening. The State Bureau of Investigation worked to investigate the officer-involved shooting as its standard procedure. An officer was hurt in a crash while on the way to the scene, but his injuries were minor and no officers were shot. After Scott was taken into custody, Forsyth County deputies traced the license plate from his vehicle to a home in Clemens, where they found his mother dead inside and she had been shot. Officers then went to the Winston-Salem home of Scott's grandmother, Glenda Snow Courier, and found her stabbed to death. At the time, neighbors said that William Scott had been living with his grandmother for about a year. At the time, the family released a statement through their pastor. While we may never know all the reasons why this happened, we can say that we know now more than ever the agony and heartbreak that failing mental health can bring to a family, the statement said in part. A day after the shooting, Scott was charged with the murders of his mother and grandmother by the Forsyth County Sheriff's Department in Winston-Salem Police Department, respectively. I think y'all know what we are going to say here. Had he been black, this probably would have gone a whole nother way. But then you're going to have some of those PC individuals who say, well, look at what happened in New York. Exception, not the rule. We've established that. That doesn't happen often. After all, we do live in an establishment where they just arrested I believe, an 8-year-old black boy for allegedly stealing a bag of chips. I wonder if they're going to throw the book at him. Now, this guy, for whatever reason, killed his mother and his grandmother. And he had to do this at 2 different locations because they weren't together. They weren't in the same home. So he went from one place to another to do this. And they want us to believe that this guy has some mental a disability or something to that effect, and that he's not competent to stand trial, but he was competent enough to go from point A to point B to kill his mother and grandmother and then have a shootout with the police. That sounds to me like someone who's well in the head, to me. But again, I'm not the deciding factor here. But they're going to allow him to, play this game of he is not all the way right in the head, and they're going to drag this along until they can deem him competent to stand trial. And I guess they're saying if it drags along long enough, they're just going to throw him into some kind of mental facility. Now, from what I've heard is that a lot of the people that like to try to play crazy to get into a mental facility in order to not have to stand trial, that's probably not the best thing to do because of the drugs that they give you. And the thing is, if you don't have like a proper diagnosis of what kind of mental illness that you have, they're not going to know what to prescribe you. They're just going to give you what they think they're going to give you. And then you might not get the right dosage. It's going to make you even more crazier. I mean, we've seen videos or maybe in movies or television shows how people be acting in mental hospitals. A lot of the times those people were not as effed up before they got in there, but when those meds got in them, it made them worse. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them played crazy in order to get inside of there, and then the drugs intensified it, and now they're really batshit crazy. So he better hope for his sake that he ain't playing crazy or playing psycho. I mean, he clearly is a psycho because he killed his mother and his grandmother, so that's a psycho right there. That's a murderer. But we'll see what happens. And also, if it's anybody who lives in the North Carolina area, let me know down in the comments. Did you hear about this story?